Welcome to the first class in the Petroleum Land Management Certification Program. This class is entitled The Introduction to Petroleum Land Management. My name is Terrell Williams, and I'll be the instructor for this particular class. This is a great class, and I thought it would be appropriate in the very beginning to talk about the different types of careers that are available in petroleum land management. There's really 5 that we're going to discuss briefly. The first career that many people aspire to is that of the in-house petroleum landman. It's really with this person where the baton is passed from the geologist, and they're given the green light to go secure or to have secured all of the pieces in place so that a company can drill a productive oil and gas well. So the first thing that we would see in their job description is that they oversee land-related drilling projects. In overseeing those projects, in many cases, these people are in charge of overseeing the regulatory issues dealing with the state regulatory agencies that monitor what happens with oil and gas across the country. They also, in many cases, need to be involved with other companies that will partner with their company to get an oil and gas well drilled. And so they're negotiating contracts with those people. They're also making deals with mineral owners in many cases. Generally, the in-house landmen will be involved to some degree in negotiating surface agreements with surface owners so that we're not involved in some sort of trespass. Title is a big issue for all of the people that work in petroleum land management, and title issues happen very regularly, and in many cases it's that in-house landman that's dealing with curing some of those titles. And in many companies it's this person, the in-house landman, that will also supervise all of the land administration activities. As we go through these 5 different types of career paths, I'm hoping that you will assess your own skill sets to find out where you might best be suited for a long-time career in petroleum land management. The second career is that of the field landman. The field landman is sometimes referred to as the field broker or the broker. But it's the in-house landman, after they receive the information of where drilling would like to take place, hands the baton off to the field landman, and it's this person who then travels to the county where the well might eventually be drilled. They enter the courthouse to examine all of the records under the tracts of land to find out exactly who owns the subsurface minerals. In many cases, if those minerals are available to be leased, it's the field landman that negotiates the oil and gas lease with these mineral owners. In some cases, it looks like the people are available to be leased, but there's questions about whether or not there's existing wells or wells that are producing, that are tying those tracts of land to production from other wells. And in that case, an examination of producing wells or examining unexpired leases must be done by the field landman. These people also, in many cases, settle surface damages, or they may be involved in doing surface inspections so that some unforeseen item doesn't crop up 2 days before the rig pulls on the site. They're involved in many cases in acquiring rights-of-ways. They are also involved in many cases in curing title defects or involved in due diligence projects. The field landman also plays the part of a detective in searching for, trying to find mineral owners that perhaps have sort of dropped off the face of the earth for a while. The third career that we're looking at is a career which would be entitled a land technician or a land tech. The person who wears this hat works very closely with the in-house landman and very often becomes that in-house landman's right-hand man or woman. They're very analytical in nature. They have a sense for detail. They're following behind the in-house landman, and some of the things that they're doing is preparing, let's say, an oil and gas lease or a right-of-way or another contract. In many cases, it's really their job to make sure that those documents are the way that they're supposed to be before they go out the door. They process, they record leases or the contracts or the assignments. They also process a form which is called an AFE, or an authorization for expenditure. And what that is really a document that the other partners would sign that would say that they're on board with partnering in drilling the well. In many cases, companies, for whatever reason, may not want to be involved in the risk of drilling the well, and it's really the land technician's job to understand who's in, who's out, and what consequences that have. They may draft assignments of oil and gas leases. They can prepare the state regulatory applications. The fourth career path is that of a lease administrator. This person is also very analytical in nature, very attuned to details, and the title or the words that I tie to the lease administrator is simply this: that they become the guardians of the company's assets. It's the oil and gas lease that really is the asset of an oil and gas company, and they're the guardians of those. An oil and gas lease is a contract. A contract, in many cases, has conditions or obligations tied to that contract, and it's the lease administrator that becomes the guardian of all of those obligations. They maintain the lease provisions. To fail to maintain a lease provision could mean the loss of the lease. And of course, a company would never want to lose a lease unnecessarily. They're also involved in overseeing the payment of certain things, like the signing bonus or the drafts that we pay mineral owners when they sign an oil and gas lease. They also oversee delay rental payments, right-of-way payments, or shut-in payments. The lease administrator, in many cases, is involved in analyzing the contracts, whether that's a purchase and sale agreement or a farm-out agreement, but they need to understand what the obligations and the conditions of those contracts are. They become the guardian of those as well. They're also involved in curing title defects, and in many cases, they're transferring ownership. If a party is deceased under the terms of an oil and gas lease, and the heirs now own that person's interest, it's the lease administrator that's transferring the title ownership to the new owners. They also, in many cases, prepare oil and gas leases. The last hat or career that we're going to look at is that of what's called a division order analyst. A division order analyst is also analytical, and it's really this person's job over the life of the producing well to maintain the ownership in an accurate way. An oil well could have many owners that are getting paid, many mineral owners, overriding royalty owners, and other partners. And over the life of the well, if it produces for 30 years or 40 years, ownership changes, and it's the division order analyst's job to maintain and accurately transfer ownership from one party to another. In doing that, they need to be able to calculate everybody's interest out of production. And in many cases, involving many owners, that can be a little complex from time to time. As I said, they maintain the title ownership over the life of the producing wells. They also have contact with the royalty owners. In many cases, a royalty owner can have a concern about their interest or whether they're getting paid correctly or incorrectly. And it's the division order analyst's job to be the buffer between the oil and gas company and those mineral owners in dealing with those types of issues. In some cases, a mineral owner who is entitled to receive revenue out of a producing well, let's say, can't be found, or there's a title issue, and so that money is held in a suspense account for those owners. It's the division order's job generally to manage those suspense accounts and release those funds once the issues are cleared up. They resolve owner issues. They ensure prompt payment from the purchasers, and they also issue division orders. And lastly, in many cases, they're involved in handling the legal matters and due diligence. So we've gone over 5 different career paths that people can have in land or land administration. I want to encourage you to take a look at your own journey, and hopefully that's going to be a prosperous one, it's going to be an exciting one, and it's going to be one that lasts into the future.